We are live, unless you're watching this on the replay. I'm Ryan, Set Space Triathlon. We're going to talk about IRONMAN Chattanooga, and we're going to talk about the run course. Going over this in 2022. With that, let's jump into the video and get talking about IRONMAN Chattanooga run course. So, I've pulled up the website here in the background, and on another window here on my computer, I've got the chat window open. So while we're doing this live, if you've got questions, you can post them in there, and I'll do the best I can to answer those questions as we're going through. If not, you can put them in the comments later. I'll check them out and get back to you if I can. So, IRONMAN Chattanooga run course. You hit the website, go down, you hit the run tab under courses, and it pulls up your handy dandy little course map. Notice you're doing 2.25 loops. So technically, you're kind of looping. You got the your transition area here, and you come running out, and then you hit the run course, and you're going along all this wonderful running, coming through, running, doing a loop, running, coming through, and doing another loop, and then looping. So there's a few little sections where, I guess technically, I mean, you're doing this section twice, but you're coming back in here. Maybe that's the 2.25. I don't know. But anyway, it's only 26.2 miles. So unlike the bike course where they have 4 extra fun miles, you've only got no extra fun miles on the run course. So you only get to experience 26.2 miles. So don't feel ripped off that you don't get bonus miles on the run, but that's just the way it works out. So I thought it'd be interesting. They do a little map Venmo thing here. So, and it's kind of nice. They got the elevation profile here as they go through and they do the run course. So let's do the little video here, 30 seconds.
Swap out your bike for your fastest running shoes as you begin your 26.2 mile 2-loop run course. You will get to experience the scenic city as you complete your 2 loops through downtown Chattanooga.
So when they say scenic and you hit this first little route here, you're going on kind of a major thoroughfare. They've got one side of the road that's like cut off or shut off from regular traffic, and then they've pushed everybody in the other side, and they've got them going back and forth the other way. So this little section, I wouldn't exactly call it as scenic. I mean, it's open. There's some sections you run by areas with trees, but if it's the middle of the day when you're out there running, you're going to get full sun on this section out here until you come back into the trail system here. So just be aware. Scenic downtown. Once you get past Ross's Landing and all this stuff here, you come out here and it's a little bit more kind of suburban, industrial type of area and situation, like 4-lane roads and stuff like that, stop signs and gas stations and stuff like that. It's nothing too exciting or extreme, but once you turn back here in this industrial area and then get back on the trail system, it's a little bit more interesting and visually appealing. You got some trees, you got some shade to work with, some aid stations, and you come up on the river, so it's a little bit more to see when you're coming back in on this section.
The Tennessee Riverwalk, Veterans Bridge, North Shore, Walnut Street Bridge, and the beautiful Riverfront Parkway. Be sure to take in the surrounding beauty before heading down Riverfront Parkway to finish at Ross's Landing along the Tennessee River, where your finish line will be waiting for you.
So they make it sound all nice and fluffy, but they kind of left out some of the major details because it's just not a quick little jaunt through the countryside and then you're done. This is a pretty challenging run course, so if you didn't play that bike properly, if you biked outside your means, you're going to pay for it a little bit on the run, especially if it just depends on what year you get. I believe in 2021 it was, I think, in the 70s or something, and not that extreme. 2019, before the pandemic kind of squashed 2020, it was 100 degrees. I did it then. It was not very fun on the run. It was a sweat fest and kind of brutal. 2018, it was 90s in the heat index and then 85 for air temperature. It wasn't exactly as brutal, but it wasn't really fun. When I did in 2014, it was nice. It was 74 degrees, rained a little on the run. It was perfect weather conditions for the race. The river was a little bit quick, and it was perfect. But 2018 they canceled the swim because the river was up too high and it kind of flooded the lower area of Ross's Landing where they would have the swim exit and everything. So just depends on the year and the weather and what you're going to get. So we'll talk a little bit about weather and stuff later, but for now we're going to assume all conditions are okay. But just plan on being a little humid, being a little bit warmer, and you need to make sure that you're playing that bike course properly, getting your hydration, your nutrition in, and setting yourself up for a very challenging run course. Not impossible, totally doable, but it's going to be challenging. So I downloaded the PDF. It's also in the athlete guide if you want to have that for later. So you're 26.2 miles over 2.25 loops. So the key is going to be when you come out of transition, you got this little, you come out of Ross's Landing and you've got this little, they call it a scenic, whatever they call it, the riverfront walkway or something or other. It's a steep uphill to come out of transition area and run up into, before you get to the first aid station, this little turnaround at the bridge. This is pretty steep, so don't come out full steam and then run that first hill, because then you're going to run yourself into the hole. Because after you get past that, it's pretty flat on this backside. Right here on Riverfront Parkway, there's really no hills to speak of. I mean, you got a little bit of elevation gains here and there, but nothing crazy. Until you come back, you hit the trail system, and it's pretty tame as far as elevation goes. But then once you come over, and there's a little bitty climb before you hit the bridge. So before you come over and hit a turn over Veterans Bridge, there's a little bitty kind of hill climb in the little neighborhoods here, and you head over the bridge, and this is where it's going to get interesting. This is where you start running Barton Avenue and the hill. You come through that first one, it's a nice little spike uphill, and then you're running through these little neighborhoods. Come through, you're going on Hickson Pike here, and then when you make that turn, you're climbing up hills to go through these neighborhoods. It's kind of nice on the backside here. It's kind of a downhill, and then you hit Barton again, and then back downhill to make your turn to Fraser Avenue and go. Once you get out of this little area, the course is much tamer, and it kind of shows. So you get this nice little respite section here before you have to go back and tackle that section a second time. So make sure that you play these first, when you get through the first 7-8 miles or so, you might come out and you're like, oh, this is, this is flat, this is great, this is really challenging. But once you get over Veterans Bridge, it becomes a whole different course. It's some hills, it's some climbing, it's some steep stuff, steep grades in a very short amount of time, and it's real. I mean, they got aid stations at the bottoms of the hills, but in between, I mean, it's a grind. People rent out the houses there for the VRBOs, and they're there cheering and stuff, but if you don't pace yourself, all the cheering in the world's not going to get you up that hill, because your legs are going to be screaming and your body's going to be like, no, I'm done. Like I said, especially if it's warm out here, this Barton Avenue, you're in the full sun if you're out there in the daylight. There's no respite, there's no place to hide out there. But once you get down the hill in these little neighborhoods, there's some trees and shade, some pretty big trees. It's kind of nice. You come out on Riverview Road here, and you're back open to the elements a little bit, Barton Avenue. And once you come through Fraser Avenue, there's buildings on either side. Usually there's a little bit more of a breeze in here, especially when you go across a bridge. Now when you go across a bridge, it's got some shade from the actual bridge structure, but there's no real cover for it, so you're kind of exposing the elements again when you go across this bridge. But usually there's a little bit of a breeze because you're kind of going over the river, and then once you do the little circle here to come back and do the rest of the course, you pass your special needs, and you're back out on the run course. Let's see if we've got that special needs marked on there. I don't see special needs. So usually this little turnaround here, when you come through the neighborhoods and you either go back onto the run course or you're turning back in to do the finish line, this right here is where they usually have special needs. I don't have it marked here on the course, but that's usually where it's at. So there's a little respite there if you get your special needs, get your bag, do whatever you need to before you hit the second loop of the run course. Remember, once you get it, you're done, and I definitely would get it the first time through, because the second time through, you come through the finish line, so there's no point in really stopping at that point in time, because hopefully at that point you're either going to make it to the finish line or not, but it's there if you need it. But overall, here's the things to plan for. You're going to get the sun out there full force. Sunscreen, definitely. Just pay attention to the weather forecast. Like I said, if it's going to be hot like it has been in the past, 100-degree heat index or something like that, definitely load up on ice. It was great in 2019. At the first aid station, they had ice in tube socks. So the rest of the race, every aid station, I put it around my neck. It melted by the time I got to the next aid station. Filled it back up, put it back in, and then kept going. So if you don't have a kit that has maybe pockets for ice or anything like that, bring a tube sock, stuff it in your T2 bag if it's going to be hot, and then grab it in the first aid station. Just open it up. They'll dump ice in there, tie it up, put it on your neck, and you're on to the next aid station. What's nice is my Zoot kit. I got two pockets on the inside, and on the top it's a one piece, but it zips down full in front. Got two pockets on the inside, two pockets on the hips, pocket on the back, and they got a nice little pocket at the top of the neck, so you can put ice in there. So in Des Moines, 2022, when it was getting close to 100 degree heat index, every aid station I stopped and I filled up all my pockets with ice. It was convenient because it was in my pockets. I just put it back up. It kept it firm, so I wasn't jiggling around. Made it to the next aid station. It all melted off, so filled it back up. And Des Moines was really great. They had my entire race. I did not pass an aid station where they did not have ice available for the athletes. So they did a good job stocking it up. In 2019, when I did Ironman Chattanooga, it was 100 degrees. They did a good job there as well. I didn't really pass too many aid stations. There are some where they run a little bit low, but I didn't have any troubles, and definitely was not my fastest Ironman time, so I wasn't at the pointy end of the field. But they had plenty of ice for everybody. They planned. They knew it was going to happen. The race director, I think, has been the same one the entire time since they started this race in 2014, so he's aware of what can happen here. So that's the important part. So sunscreen, definitely bring it. Mitigation practices for keeping cool in the run. I like to wear visors for my race, but if I wear a visor, I do put sunscreen on top of my hair because even with hair, I don't shave my head or anything, but top of my head still gets sunburnt, so you don't want that line from your visor. It's not very comfortable, so make sure you're hitting the top of your head. Sunscreen. Sunglasses, I bring them because, I mean, usually I'm out there by noon, 1 o'clock, and you're in the full sun, and it's just bright, and it's hot, and anything you could do to kind of mitigate that sun glaring in your face and making you feel any worse than you need to feel out there. And I don't want to make it sound like horrible or impossible, but if it's warm, it's going to be very difficult. Even if the race conditions are perfect, 2014, 74 degrees, that was my best Ironman time, one of my best runs, but still about 14 or so, I was crossing Walnut Street Bridge here on my first loop, and I started to cramp up a little bit. I mean, it is, muscular endurance is going to be important for this run because these hills, you know, you're looking at 1,150 feet of gain over a marathon course. But the important part is, I mean, you're getting this right in the middle of your course. You're going through this loop, you're pounding your quads, pounding your calves, pounding your hamstrings, pounding everything on the uphills and downhills. And you come back and you do it again right before the finish line. So this is where I had problems on the second loop going through. I had to walk Barton Hill on the second time through. Just, you know, by that time, my legs had started kind of cramping up a little bit, and I mitigated enough that it wasn't a huge problem, but I didn't want to push it too hard and end up locking up to a point where I needed medical assistance or anything. But definitely was able to recover, hit Fraser Avenue, Walnut Street Bridge, and then come down to the finish line. And it's nice because, you know, it's all down here in Ross's Landing. Transitions one spot. It's a nice area, nice open area. The transitions in the parking lot, so it's paved. You don't have to worry about grass and all that kind of mess. And it's really convenient. It's a really good course, but it will test you and it will challenge you. So definitely make sure when you come off your bike, you haven't overbiked beyond your means, beyond your training. Hydration, nutrition is on point. You want to get off the bike more than 2 to 3% dehydrated. And then when you hit the run course, make sure you're doing what you need to at the aid stations to stay hydrated, to stay cool, and make it through race day. Like I said, I think the biggest thing is going to be Barton Hill and this little neighborhood back in here. That is going to be the key to determining how you're going to finish this race, because if you go through and you try to charge it through the first time, you're going to end up paying for it kind of coming through that second loop. You hit mile 14, 15, that's when the race really starts. And then you're going to come through this area again. So this could be a make or break moment for you. I mean, luckily, hopefully the first time through you still got some energy. The second time through you may be kind of drained, but once you get past it, you know, you got Fraser Avenue and Walnut Street Bridge to look forward to kind of not as much climbing to get through to the finish line. And it's a really nice feeling. You come onto this bridge and you realize you don't have to hit the second loop. You can turn left and go down to the finish line. That's really nice. Really nice part of the race, but that's, I think, going to be the key. Really, wind wasn't a factor. Unfortunately, it was rather stagnant, so that's going to be an issue, especially if it gets warm, that you won't have a breeze out there necessarily. Now, on this Riverside Road, there's enough traffic going back and forth that you get a little breeze from the cars and stuff going back and forth, so that's kind of convenient and something to kind of take your mind off of what's going on. Once you get back to the trail system, it's just you and other runners on the course, except for aid stations. So at times it could be actually a little bit more lonely. Not as much going on to distract you, but once you pop out here by the river, you can at least look on the river and see what's going on. And if it's warm, you could dream about, oh, just think how cool and refreshing it would be to jump in the river again and do the swim down to, down to McClellan Island here and then jump out and back on the run course. Don't do that, but I'm just saying, you look at that river and you're like, oh, it'd be nice to jump in right about now. Because it is convenient. You run by the swim entry area so you can look down, and it's amazing how quickly they break everything down and they've moved on and got everything else going. But that's going to be the key, is don't attack this section hard on the first time through. Save it for the end and just see how much energy you have left, because it is going to take all the energy you got. It is a tough little section through here, but it's nice you get a little bit of a respite before you have to come back and tackle it again. But the one hard part is this Riverfront Parkway. You come through and you do all these hills, you come back in, you get this nice flat course, but if it's warm, if it's sunny, you're out there in the full sun. So you kind of got a different factor, a different side to kind of confront when you're out there on the run course in that little section. So, talked a lot, talked for about 15 minutes about the run course. Hopefully I've brought some important points to the race. Like I said, I've done this the full 3 times, the half once. Very doable race, but you just got to watch out for the weather, because it can get you, it can be hot out there, hot, humid, especially at the end of September. You never know what you're going to get. I live here in Kansas City, kind of the same situation. I mean, we could have 80, potentially 90-degree days even in September, potentially into October too. So just the Midwest and the South, sometimes you just never know what's going to pop up on the weather front. So just be ready for that. Like I said, sunscreen, sunglasses, a hat or a visor, because you don't want to burn the top of your head, because that's uncomfortable as well. So make sure you've got the top of your head covered if you're wearing a visor. You've got like sunscreen or something. Heat mitigation factors, either like a tube sock to fill with ice, or pockets in your tri-suits or whatever to fill with ice as you go by the aid stations. Other than that, like I said, I think the special needs has typically been here at the turnaround, so I don't see it marked on this map, but usually it is. And that's your elevation for the run course, and that's basically it. We're going to wrap it up talking about IRONMAN Chattanooga run course. It's a doozy, but it's a very interesting course. It keeps you engaged the entire time. There's no point in time where you're just kind of like, I don't know, this is boring. There's definitely things to keep you engaged. The flat section is interesting because you're out there in the full sun. You kind of deal with the elements. The back section here, you got the trail system, so it kind of breaks it up into different, you're not running roads the entire time, and you come back in here, and it throws a little bit of a challenge at you, so you don't get bored out there just running flat run courses. Or just, we'd hate for you to go out there and be like, yeah, this is boring. I just didn't have any challenge out there. You're going to have a challenge. So hopefully this helps you out. Again, I want to post this. If you're seeing it on Facebook on replay, hit the thumbs up if it helped you out. Seeing it on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe, notification button to get future notifications about Chattanooga, other courses, tips I do, or anything like that. So with that, I want to wrap it up. I'll see you in the next video. Happy training, and we'll see you out there on race day.